6 p.m. in Betwa, chief town of the East region. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. The burning of taxes resurfaces in the city of Bamenda, chief town of the Northwest region. At least 2 taxis have been burned to ashes by unknown armed men believed to be separatist fighters. This is happening at a time when U.S. President Joe Biden is being asked to halt asylum for separatist activists in the United States of America. A human rights lawyer says he has received a favorable response from President Joe Biden. Away from that, we'll take you to a town, or we'll take you to a locality known as Fuchuli in the west region of Cameroon to show you the poor conditions in which learners are acquiring knowledge in school. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe Television for presentation. I am Immaculate Fogwe. 2 taxis have been set ablaze in Church Street. It is a neighborhood in Bamenda, which is the chief town of the Northwest region, by unknown gunmen. Meanwhile, a boy of about 1 year old has died in an unclear circumstances while at school in Small Mancons neighborhood, still in Bamenda. A compilation of a list of these latest happenings in this report done by Smart Chicken Gabriel.
2 cab drivers in Bamenda have lost their vehicles to unknown armed men at Church Street as their taxis were set ablaze in broad daylight. It's been several months that inhabitants of Bamenda have been spared from burning vehicles. If not for the inhabitants of Church Street, 3 cars would have been destroyed, but they managed to save one. This incident comes days after the drivers in Bamenda and the heads of security forces both agreed that the color of taxi remains yellow in the entire town. At Small Mancon in Bamenda, parents of a 1.5-year-old child are in total confusion after they were called to come and collect their dead child who went to school healthy. According to school officials, the little boy was in good shape until after school hours when they discovered the body in a bucket already gone. The water in which the little boy was discovered inside wasn't up to 2 liters. Still in Bamenda, Pilo Finance, precisely Pilom Bingo Annex in Bamenda 3 subdivision, it was a lady who missed being beaten to death by angry inhabitants. Witness account has it that the lady ordered for a transfer of 300,000 francs CFA into an account and was about asking for the transfer of another 200,000 francs CFA into another account when she was asked to give the first 300,000 francs they had transferred before they could continue the exercise. At this point, she started behaving like a mentally sick person. The call boss lady then alerted people around who caught her, wanting to discover what was in the purse the lady was carrying. They discovered 3 stones. The woman is with security forces in Bamenda for further investigations.
Smart Chicken Gabriel reporting there. Irish officials are set to have opened an investigation on Julius Nyang'u, interim leader of the Ambazonian Governing Council AGC, political wing of the ADF, political wing of the ADF armed group. The investigation is revealed by US-based barrister Nsala Emmanuel, who says the US President Joe Biden has reacted favorably to his end of asylum for separatist activists in the United States. Julius Nyang'u took over the AGC after the arrest of Dr. Ayabacho Lucas. He outlined the impact of this decision, which will have on the armed conflict in the conflict northwest and southwest regions. For me, Armstrong Sanda is the man on that story.
Nyawung, leader of the Ambazonian Governing Council, the political wing that controls the Ambazonian Defense Forces ADF armed group. Julius took over the leadership of the Governing Council after the arrest and detention of Dr. Cho Ayaba Lucas in Norway. Barrister Nsala Emmanuel, founder of the US-based Nsala law firm, says Julius Nyawung is being investigated by Irish officials following a legal suit filed by his law firm.
The Ireland criminal complaint against the new leader of the Ambazonia Governing Council, whom we labeled clearly as a terrorist in our complaint, accuses him of conspiracy to terrorism, crimes against humanity, human rights violations, material support of terrorism, and a whole litany of other crimes involving Cameroon and its innocent populations.
The legal mind also reveals that U.S. President Joe Biden reacted favorably to his request to earn asylum for separatist activists in the U.S.
In addition, denying them residency and work permits in the United States cuts them off from access to resources they might use to fund terrorism or other violent crimes and activities against innocent civilians, innocent populations in Cameroon.
He believes that these latest developments will have a considerable impact on the over 7-year-long armed conflict in the northwest and southwest English-speaking regions of Cameroon.
And we hope it will deter future offenses and ensure that those responsible for violence and terrorism are held accountable.
Crisis has left over 800,000 persons displaced, with over 6,000 dead and enormous material damage.
Away from news connected to the over 8-year-old armed conflict, coming up next, we'll be showing you the poor conditions in which learners are acquiring knowledge in a school in Fuchuli. It is located in the west region of Cameroon. Our reporter, Babla Jonathan, takes us to nursery and primary school in Chang subdivision in his report.
Children learning in deplorable conditions in government nursery and primary school Fuchuli in Chang subdivision, the west region of Cameroon.
C'est comme une cuisine qui a été construite dans l'Antiquité.
The school's headmaster, Péance Zebazé, compares its buildings to an ancient kitchen with neither window nor door frames and dusted floors on which children study.
Le pauvre plafond qu'on a mis pour protéger le bureau tous les jours.
He is constantly concerned about the weight of nature on the aged buildings and the disaster looming over the learners.
Avec les coups d'eau qui viennent des toits qui suintaient à tout moment.
He says it is an uphill task to protect documents from rainwater and rats. The teaching and learning process is manned by 2 teachers, the headmaster and another teacher. Created in 1963, the government has not built any classroom in the school. All the classrooms have been built by the inhabitants of Fuchuli. The headmaster is asking for a better learning environment and more teachers to be sent to the school. Meantime, the municipal authorities of Chang have constructed a new building for the nursery section.
Onto something else, several cartons of pharmaceutical products have been seized by officials of the Banga Gendarmerie Company in the Mungo Division, Electoral region of Cameroon. This was in the course of a raid executed in Suza. Security forces discovered the drugs in the building. Ese Luciliengo has more.
Operation carried out in Suza by officials of the Banga Gendarmerie Company and the Research Brigade in the Mungo Division. Cartons of pharmaceutical products were seized. According to Chief Warrant Officer Francis Abesolo of the Banga Gendarmerie Company, the medications belonged to a woman. In the building, the products were stored to be sold in the black market.
Went to Suza, we received information that there were someone were keeping these drugs inside the house. We penetrate inside the room. We visit all the room, and each room contains a lot of drugs. So we catch these drugs.
Imported from neighboring countries, most of these medications pose a threat to one's health.
A lot of kind of drugs, but very badly conserved. It is a very big danger for the health of the population.
In recent years, Cameroon has intensified its efforts to combat the illegal trade of pharmaceutical products, but the activity keeps gaining momentum across the country.
Now to health. Neglected tropical diseases continue to pose serious health threats in Cameroon, especially among children. Due to the high prevalence rate of these diseases, each year the Ministry of Public Health launches campaigns across the country, and for this year the deworming campaign will run from November 27th to December 2nd, 2024, targeting children aged between 5 and 14 years age. Asa Lucilengo has more.
In rural, like in urban areas of Cameroon, worm infections known as helminthiasis is also a significant public health concern affecting approximately 3 to 4 million children. School children aged between 5 and 14 years are more exposed to worm infections, which are transmitted through contaminated freshwater bodies. To curb the spread, the Ministry of Public Health each year launches a mass drug administration MDA or deworming campaigns in schools and health centers.
We treat helminthiasis and bilharziosis, which are parasitical diseases, and to achieve that goal we use mebendazole and praziquantel, which are drugs that are safe for the children.
This year, the campaign will run from the 27th of November to the 2nd of December 2024.
The objective is to treat the majority of school-age children, even they are in school or in communities. To achieve that, we need to educate population to create the adhesion of the parents and to make sure that drugs in sufficient quantities goes through the system and get through the schools so that all the children can be treated.
The administration of mebendazole and albendazole can help combat anemia and malnutrition by treating worm infections that contribute to these conditions.
Health lady Asa Lucilengo reporting there. Artisanal miners in Gaundari in the Adamawa region of Cameroon say they are being unjustly chased away from their mining site in Bay by a mining company. Outlining the main difficulties they go through in the activity, the miners say they have invested their lives in the 15 hectares mining site and have no other place to go to. The planned eviction risks affecting over 8,000 individuals. Femi Armstrong Sanda tells us more about the challenges these miners will face.
This is what artisanal miners go through in search of gold at the Mbe Gold Mine in Gaundari in the Adamawa region of Cameroon. With no safety shoes, head protection, protective eyewears, respiratory protection, hearing protection or fall protection, these miners live their lives on the line every day in search of the precious stone. Predominantly internally displaced persons of the Boko Haram activities in the Far North region, the over 100 miners have come from different parts of Cameroon to settle for this activity in Bay. Their activity and concentration has pulled several other Cameroonians and their families to the area, which today hosts over 8,000 individuals, as confirmed by a native of Gaundari. He says Mbe in Gaundari has witnessed an exponential growth and they are happy with the transformation. However, the joy and source of livelihood for the miners and their families is being threatened by officials of a mining company that claims legal rights over the Mbe mining site. He says they have borrowed money from multiple sources to invest in Mbe and in their artisanal activity, hence do not know where to start from or go to from where they are. Speaking on behalf of his colleague, this artisanal miner says Oriol, a mining company, is chasing them away unjustly from the 15 hectares of land which they developed in Bay. He questions what the government plans to do for them and their families if they are finally chased away by the company that claims to be authorized by the government. Besides the threat to vacate, the miners also declared a lack of a compensation plan from the company that was them off. They say that they are also being faced by disturbing levels of insecurity manifested in the forms of kidnappings and aggressions.
Now we talk something else. Young people, mostly students drawn from different universities and institutes of learning, have converged at the St. Jerome University Institute Douala for a 3-day international conference on digital transformation and sustainable development. Organizers aim to equip them with scientific skills applicable in every domain of life to foster emergence, particularly with the aid of artificial intelligence. It will also strengthen them to become entrepreneurs and employers in a country where unemployment rate is chronic. Innocent Aze reports.
Cameroon is still crippling towards emergence by 2035. Several lovers of sustainable development thrive in their own way to see this vision become a reality. One of such ways is the training of young Cameroonians and impacting them with digital skills in an era where digitalization is the main reliable catalyst for sustainable development and emergence. One of such initiatives, an international conference on digital transformation and sustainable development, began on November 21 at the Catholic University Institute St. Jerome Douala to last for 3 days. We want that the students entrusted to us learn and apply all the scientific skills acquired here for the development of Cameroon, being it at the level of agriculture, medicine, and so on. This will help us go far in terms of emergence. It serves as a crucible for reflection on how digitalization can be exploited to promote sustainability and how, in turn, the principles of sustainable development can influence and guide digital transformation and the technological innovations like the artificial intelligence eased by scientific heritage.
It is very, very important that the basic data of the African experience in science and technology are there, but they are not there. So if the other one, they produce their data, if you just take what the other one have produced, you are lost.
Innovation strategies, emerging practices, and the ethics of digitalization and engineering from a sustainability perspective were major aspects discussed by the young participants. All these prepare students at St. Jerome to not only eligible to work in the government, but most especially to be entrepreneurs and employers, since the states cannot employ everyone. An entrepreneurial competition opened to young people under 35 years of age from different universities and institutes, organized by the Ministry of Youth and Civic Education, takes place on November 23rd in the field of digital and sustainable development.
Now on our foreign page, Mali's military junta leader Colonel Assimi Goita fired Prime Minister Shogel Kakala Maiga and his government on Wednesday. Meantime, the Archdiocese of Nairobi, Kenya has rejected donations from politicians including the President William Ruto. In a statement, Archbishop Philip Oyolo said the money will be refunded given that it violated the church's directives and the country's law on fundraising, which requires a permit. Details with Siri Chakutio.
Mali's Prime Minister Shogel Maiga was sacked on Wednesday. A decree was read on national television by the Secretary General of the Presidency. Alfuseni Diawara read the 3-article text signed by the President of the Transition, Kel Assimi Goita, appointed by the military in 2021 following Mali's second coup in a year. Prime Minister Shogel Kolta Maiga publicly criticized the junta on November 16 during events marking the November 2023 recapture of Kidal. Dressed in military attire despite being a civilian, Maiga voiced frustration over his exclusion from key decisions, particularly regarding the timeline for the nation's political transition.
Il respecte la confusion et de l'amalgame qui plane sur la transition malienne. Nous ne pouvons pas accepter. Le peuple n'acceptera pas.
Demonstrators in the capital and many cities in the country called for Maiga's resignation. A section of the Malian military known as the Collective of Military Defense is accusing Prime Minister Shogel Kokala Maiga of betrayal and denunciation following his criticism of the ruling general. And in Kenya, Kenya's Catholic Church has rejected a donation of about $40,000 made by President William Ruto. He offered the money toward the building of a priest's house and a gift to the choir during Mass on Sunday at the Soweto Catholic Church in the capital, Nairobi. The donation followed a recent statement by Catholic bishops who had hit out at the government for failing to fulfill their electoral promises. Churches have been under pressure this year from young anti-tax protesters who have accused them of being too close to politicians. Following Rotu's much publicized donation on Sunday, many Kenyans urged the Catholic Church to reject the money. The president had given around 2.6 million Kenyan shilling in cash. The Catholic Archbishop of Nairobi, Philip Onyolo, said that the cash will be returned over ethical concerns and the need to safeguard the church from being used for political purposes. He also declined his other pledge and said a donation of 200,000 Kenyan shilling made by the governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, who attended the same service, was also being handed back.
Seri Chakutio ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a political analyst. He's known as Far Elvis Tayong, and we'll be looking at some lapses noticed in the just ended registration exercise of Cameroonians on the electoral list. Good evening. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight. The coalition of the Cameroon Federalist Movement has raised an alarm on the disappearance of 120,000 registered voters on the provisional list published by Elections Cameroon. According to the elections body, their biometric data, including fingerprints of the persons concerned, are missing. Are you convinced of the reasons given by the elections governing body, Lekam?
Thanks, Immaculate, and good evening to you and to all the televiewers. It's my pleasure being part and parcel of Talking Point today. Well, concerning the question you just asked, it's a call for consent. That's why the coalition of the Cameroon Federalist Movement, in which CRM is a member, raised an alarm, as you rightly mentioned. And the alarm is simple, that it is abnormal for Electoral to tell us that 120,000 names are missing on the Electoral list on the flimsy excuses that their biometric data, including fingerprints, are absent or missing. Now, it's abnormal because we said when people go to the field, they took their time, and the electoral officials were busy picking fingerprints or taking fingerprints of each and every one, and the biometric data was equally collected because it was done with ID cards. Now, how come that after going through that rigorous process, Elecam tells us that these 120,000 persons are not on the list for this reason? I think it's a flimsy excuse, and we think that Elecam should not be part and parcel of the rigging mechanism as they're indicating. That explains why the national president, Professor Maurice Kamto, has equally written to Elecam concerning the irregularities we have seen. And I think that Elecam has not replied so far. And our legal team will be standing by because we will go at any length to ensure that Elecam does what it's supposed to do legally, because this is a violation of the rights of persons who took time to go and register, only to find out that their names are completely missing. Of course, it's not convincing. So Elecam cannot tell us any story on this. And so we are waiting for the response. But Elecam must do something as fast as possible.
Now, Favis, people had to leave all what they had to do just to go get themselves registered on the electoral list. And all of a sudden, they are told their names are missing. Are you convinced that these same people will be willing to start the procedure afresh? Will the euphoria still be the same?
Yes, I think that it is. It will not be easy to get the same persons to come back. After convincing them previously, they took a long queue. They went through the rigorous process of the registration process, and sometimes the machines were not even working, and we had to even appeal on them to hold on, where the electoral officials were giving flimsy excuses. And so at the end of it, before that we used to have not above 4 million, but now getting to 8 million plus tells you that there is a lot of work that was done on the ground to get these persons who had equally lost total faith in the electoral process in the country to come back to register. And now that 103,000 rather, their names are missing on the electoral list, it will not be easy to get these same persons to come back. That's why you see our worry alongside with the coalition has been that Elecam is supposed to redress the issue. If they don't redress the issue, that means that they are already accomplices to the rigging process that is being put in place. as of now ahead of the elections coming up. And so the euphoria will not be the same because, as I said, somebody who has not been taking part, you convince him, he comes now, the time is coming to put his name, he only comes back to hear that his name does not even figure anywhere, you know. I think it's a call for concern, and the euphoria can never be the same. So Elecam has to do something, and we are bent on ensuring that Elecam does the right thing as expected by them, than being an accomplice to the rigging process, which has totally discouraged Cameroonians in the previous elections from even putting their names down on the voter registry.
A few weeks ago, the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, called for a resignation of the director of elections governing body Cameroon, Eric Esuse. In an open letter, he says Elecam is openly opposed to the registration of Cameroonians on the electoral roll and therefore becomes an active agent of pre-electoral fraud. Do you think if Eric Esuse decides to resign today, things will change, especially now that we are aware of how things work in this country?
Yes, it's true. It's true. The national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement equally did an appeal on that, a call on that for the director of that institution to resign, to Mr. Eric Esuse. And I think it's very clear. Unfortunate thing is that in Cameroon we don't have the culture of resigning. If you go to the United States of America, when Donald Trump was carrying on his campaign, we understand that the first assassination attempt on his life, the CIA director resigned to show that it was her fault that she did not put in place adequate measures for security, and so to show that aspect of remorse, she had to resign. If we're talking about Elecam here, I said earlier, if names have problems or date of birth, it could be tolerated, but not that people will feed their names, including their thumbprints on the machine, and you come and say it's missing. That alone qualifies for Mr. Eric Esose to resign. He is supposed to resign. That is it, because it's an act of incompetence. And if you have workers on the field who are not able to deliver, or they are carrying out a similar error across the national territory, it means it is a calculated attempt. And if Mr. Eric thinks that under normal condition is not part of it, he's not aware, he's supposed to resign. And so I think the national president is not making an error on that. And so it's a call for concern. And I think that if he resigns, things will change, because we're not talking about changing the electoral code. That's what we've been clamoring for. But within his power, I don't think somebody instructed him or his institution to carry on with the aspect of wiping out 120,000 names. If they are wiped out, it means that there's an error somewhere, a human error, unless he's telling us that he's working in connivance with the powers that be at the Tutsi.
Now let's look at this. In a statement issued by the chairperson of the Coalition of Cameroon Federalist Groups, an activist, he urged Cameroonians to monitor the activities of the electoral process. What does that mean, and what are Cameroonians expected to do concretely in order to get the change they have been yearning for years now?
Yes, I think the message put in place by the chairman of the coalition is simple and clear to all Cameroonians. You know, the electoral process, monitor the activities of the electoral process is not just an assignment for a political party. It's not just an assignment for some particular dedicated persons. And so the message you get from the chairman of the coalition is simple, that we all must be involved. That means we must be able to take part in our massive registration so as to enable our name on the voter registry. 2, the message from the chairman is simple, that we must be able to take part in the voting process. And secondly, or thirdly, we must be able to also take part in the vote counting. You know, it matters a lot, because in each of these stages, this is where malpractices occur if Cameroonians are not vigilant. And so the vote counting process, we must be able to be part and parcel of it. And that constitutes part of monitoring the activities of the electoral process. And above all, the chairman is making us to understand that we must also be part and parcel of the release of the electoral results, be it at the level of the polling stations at the level of the divisional counting commissions, at the level of the regional counting commissions, and at the level of the national counting commission, we must be part and parcel of the process, being vigilant and monitoring step by step the evolutions of the electoral process will go a long way to curb the malpractices that has been part and parcel of this regime. And getting cognizance of all of this, I'm sure, and I think that the message is clear to all Cameroonians as far as monitoring the activities of the electoral process is concerned.
Cameroonians are expected to head to the polls next year to elect their president. How do you envisage these upcoming elections?
Yes, I think for the upcoming elections, it's no news that everyone knows that 2025 will be presidential and 2026 will be municipal, parliamentary, of course, regional council and the rest. But then, one thing is for sure that for the upcoming elections, I think my expectations are very high. I would keep on telling people it will not be business as usual. It will not be business as usual. Cameroonians have been fooled several times. And I think from the indications of the fact that over 8 million of Cameroonians went to register, which has never happened before, shows that they are aware and they are willing to take their destiny into their hands. And so we simply say that Cameroonians just join us. It's not a matter of whether it is Professor Maurice Kamto, CRM, or the coalition, no. It's a matter of everyone is feeling the pinch. We understand the National Assembly, there's another law that's coming up on local taxes that has to be spread to everyone. They're still working on that. And you can imagine the taxes that are increasing every day. Salaries remain the same. Standard of living is getting high every day. It tells you that people are getting tired. Fuel prices, in fact, people are getting suffocated. And so for the fact that people are determined to take the bull by the horn, it means that it's but no doubt that it will not be business as usual. And that's the reason why you find Electoral probably coming in with the eviction of 120,000 names under the pretext that their biometric data and the fingerprints were not there and all the like. You see, it's already a fear factor, but I think that Cameroonians are up to the task. And we will go in collectively in the ballot box to make the things happen as far as our well-being in this country is concerned.
Fa Evis Tayong, thank you so much for your time. That's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for always choosing ATV. Coming up next in some few minutes, Equinoxe with Serge Alain Odu and his guest. Have a wonderful evening. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing. Bye-bye for now.